Hi, I'm Anita.
And I'm Jordan. Anita, do you like to bake?
I do really love to bake, especially around Christmas time.
That sounds awesome, but why do you like to bake?
The thing I love most about baking is just imagining the people who are gonna receive that baking and eat that baking. I love giving it to people knowing that they'll be able to share it with friends and family, maybe sitting around the Christmas tree, things like that. But I also really love the preparation process. I love setting a day aside to just make a bunch of different kinds of cookies and then set another day aside to paint and decorate those cookies. So I'll put little suits on the gingerbread men and put like sparkles and sprinkles on the Christmas trees. It's a lot of fun for me.
That sounds really good. And I know they're really good because I've had them. And I know they look really pretty because I've had them. And you've got this plan. You've prepared, you're doing it, you execute it. And we often get better results when we plan and prepare and execute. It just works better that way. Did you know that God does a lot of planning for our lives that we're not even aware of?
Yeah, and that is today's big idea, that God prepares the way. Let's watch this God story to learn a little bit more about that.
Today, our story is from the books of 1 Kings and Luke. It's a story about life-saving birds, fire from heaven, and a prophet who talked about Jesus hundreds of years before he was born.
In the beginning, God created everything, and it was good. But then, Adam and Eve chose their way over God's way, which broke the relationship they had with God. The consequences of this included pain and death. But God didn't want that for his kids, so he began an incredible rescue plan to reconnect himself with people. It started with Abraham and Sarah, who had Isaac, who had Jacob, who was renamed Israel, and whose family became the Israelites. The Israelites were God's chosen people, but that didn't mean things were easy for them. They were trapped as slaves in Egypt, and once freed, they thought they were lost in the desert with no food or water. But God gave them everything they needed to live, including rules, a special place to live, and judges and kings to help them live better. But they always ended up choosing their own way. Eventually, God chose a special man named Elijah to speak to the people on his behalf. Elijah was a prophet. Even though Elijah was speaking on God's behalf, the Israelites still didn't listen to him. But through Elijah, God began to prepare the way for someone greater who would come hundreds of years later to rescue the Israelites. That person was Jesus. And that leads to today's story from 1 Kings 18 through 19 and Luke chapter 1.
Elijah was a great individual, and God partnered with him in so many amazing ways. My stomach grumbled. Did you hear that? Okay. Hi friends, Duann here. A few years ago, we had a big party for my mother, and I knew that I would not be able to do everything on my own. So my friends helped to prepare everything to make this party a huge success. And that made me think of the big idea for today, which is God prepares the way. In the Old Testament, in the books of 1 and 2 Kings, we learn about the prophet Elijah. And even though he lived hundreds of years before Jesus, we see how God used him to prepare the way for Jesus in a really cool way. So remember last week, we spoke about Elijah the prophet, who listened to God, did as God told him, and spoke what God told him to say. So we mentioned there was an evil king who worshipped a fake god. The evil king's name was Ahab, and the fake god was Baal. God sent Elijah to speak to the king, and this is what he said. I serve the Lord. He is the God of Israel. You can be sure that he lives. And you can be just as sure that there won't be any dew or rain on the whole land. There won't be any during the next few years. It won't come until I say so. After 3 years of no rain, God told Elijah to go to the king and that he would send rain. So Elijah went, and he made a challenge to Ahab. Elijah said, Now send for people from all over Israel. Tell them to meet me on Mount Carmel and bring the 450 prophets of the god named Baal. So Ahab sent that message all through Israel. He gathered the prophets together on Mount Carmel. Then Elijah said to them, I'm the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves. Let them cut it into pieces. Then let them put it on the wood, but don't let them set fire to it. I'll prepare the other bull. I'll put it on the wood, but I won't set fire to it. Then you pray to your God, and I'll pray to the Lord. The God who answers by sending fire down is the one and only God. So the prophets of Baal did this, and they prayed to Baal from morning till noon. But surprise, surprise, there was no reply. And at noon, Elijah began to tease them. He told them, "Why don't you speak a bit louder? Maybe he's sleeping. Maybe he's gone to the bathroom." The prophets of Baal continued all day, and nothing happened. Then Elijah built an altar to the Lord. He prepared everything. And get this, he even had them bring water and pour water on the altar. And not just a little bit of water, a lot of water. And we all know water is the last thing you need when you're trying to build a fire. And when it was time, Elijah stepped up and prayed to God. And he said, "Lord, you are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Today, let everyone know that you are God in Israel. Let them know I'm your servant. Let them know I've done all these things because you commanded me to. Answer me, Lord, answer me. Then these people will know that you are the one and only God. They'll know that you are turning their hearts back to you again." The fire of the Lord came down. It burned up the sacrifice, it burned up the wood and the stones and the soil. It even dried up the water in the ditch. Everyone saw what happened. God prepared this to show all those people who worship Baal that he, God, was the only true God. And do you know what? After that, they all fell flat on their faces and worshiped the one true God. And then God sent rain, which was amazing. There are many more incredible, amazing miracles that God had Elijah perform. Later on in Elijah's life, one really cool thing that happened is that he was just walking along. He didn't even die. The chariots just came and scooped him up to heaven. Elijah was a great individual, and God partnered with him in so many awesome ways. Because Elijah was willing to do what God wanted him to do, he helped remind people of the one true God and helped prepare the way for the coming rescuer. Oftentimes, we try to make things happen for ourselves. We try, and we try. Sometimes we succeed, but sometimes we fail. But when we seek God's wisdom and guidance first and see what he wants for us, then we see that he's already preparing a way for what he desires for us. So remember, we need to take time to listen. God speaks to us through many ways, through a friend, through a parent. We just need to take that time to sit and remember that he's preparing a way in our lives too. So friends, I'm Duann. Thanks for joining me for this God story. I'm looking forward to seeing you for another one.
Turn to the person next to you.
And answer the following question before the time runs out.
Question time! What amazing thing happened when Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal? Game time! Sticky situation. How many times can you say the key verse before things get sticky? Say it with me. May glory be given to God in the highest heaven, and may peace be given to those he is pleased with on earth. Luke 2, verse 14. Get ready. 3, 2, 1, go!
Man, I can imagine a bonfire that can consume meat and wood, but when God's fire consumed stone and dust and water, that would have been mind-blowing.
Absolutely. God made it pretty clear that he was preparing the way for Jesus. And we don't always know why things happen, but often when we look back, we can see how God was preparing a way for us.
Yeah, I love hearing stories of when people blindly follow God, and then they can look back and see all the amazing places that God took them. Let's join Dan. He met up with Richard, and they had a really, really good time together. Watch this.
Richard,
Hey Dan, how's it going, man?
nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
So this is your garage.
Yeah, this is where I spend most of my time.
It's pretty incredible. There's stuff in here I've never seen before.
Yeah, a lot of people have never seen this stuff before because we do a lot of one-of-a-kind stuff. We'll take something like this engine, rebuild it, completely tear it down, put parts from other engines on it, and make it way better than it left factory.
This is amazing. How did you learn to do this stuff?
You know, there really is no instruction manual for this. There's a lot of make it up as you go along.
It seems like there's a lot of trust involved in doing that. Like, where does that come from?
So to be able to do what I'm doing, there's a lot of trust in myself and also in God that he's got something planned for me and he's gonna take care of me. Actually, let me show you what's going on in the shop. I'm actually a heavy equipment mechanic, but there's no heavy equipment in my shop right now.
Yeah, this is not heavy equipment at all. So how did you get into muscle cars? Did you just get lucky or what?
Luck didn't have anything to do with it. We bought this thing as a rust bucket, and I've got 1,400 hours into this car. I got bullied as a kid in elementary school. I did not enjoy high school, and wrenching was always kind of my therapy to leave those troubles behind. And it took a lot of different aspects coming together to make this happen. Actually, let me show you what I mean on this car. This is a car that we built for a YouTube Project Car Challenge. It's a 90s German car that we pulled out of a scrapyard. We put a brand new modern domestic engine in it. We've added turbos from a diesel engine that were never intended for this engine. And somehow we made them all work together to make this incredible, fast car.
That's incredible. So what you're telling me is this car was bound for the scrapyard and you put all this work into it, fixed it up, and now it's ready for the road, even more than that.
Yeah, so we're kind of like this car, if you can think about it. Some of us might feel that we're ready for the scrapyard, that people don't want us anymore, that we have nothing left to offer the world, but God has this giant plan for you. The engineer for this German car had no idea that 30 years later it would have a brand new gas engine, but it comes together, and just like this car, you are gonna be something incredible and unique. But it takes hard work, and it takes the trust in knowing that God is in there and he's in control. So trust in him, and you are gonna do something incredible.
Wow, that is such a powerful example of the way that God has a plan for all our lives. So what's next for you?
You know what? I don't even know. We got the next little bit lined up, but I have no idea where I'm gonna be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I do know that God's got it under control, and I can sleep good at night knowing that, you know what, he'll figure it out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and I will definitely be back.
God bless, man.
See ya.
Question time! What is one way that God helped prepare Richard for what he does now? What else stood out to you in Richard's story?
Richard was spot on when he says that we can trust God in all circumstances, whether good or bad, and that we can trust God to use those to help us grow. He knows that when we focus on God, he can bring us through all circumstances. And when we're trusting him in that journey, we can often end up in places that we never thought possible.
I know. God has a plan for each and every person on earth, and that makes him super cool.
Absolutely. Trust God. Ask him what his plan for your life is and how you can be fully invested and fully active in that plan.
Let's break into our small groups now and see what that will look like in our own lives.